Hey everybody, what's up? JB here. It is Soccer Dad Pod time. We are recording this on a Monday morning in the loo, which for this time of year, as for most of you that listen here, actually not most of you anymore. 40% of you are from St. Louis. You know that this time of year you go out and your car has yellow pollen everywhere, which means your head is all messed up, your nose is all messed up. So, welcome to St. Louis in the springtime. Joining me today is somebody that I'm sure can concur. Zach, how is springtime in the Western Burbs treating you?
It is dusty, and
Yeah, right.
but it's good. I love spring. I don't like the pollen so much because I feel like I have to wash the car every other day just to be able to see up.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's good. Other than
You strike you you strike me as one of those guys that does the $29 monthly waterway pass or something like that.
no,
Even though you have kids, right? They should be
no,
washing the car for you.
no, I have not subscribed to a membership for car washes. No.
There you go. So springtime soccer in St. Louis in particular means a couple things. I just want to point this out. If you have not yet, be sure to go over to Instagram, give St. Louis Best 11 a follow. I love this show. I love Soccer Dad Pod. I love the conversations we have and what we've been able to accomplish. But working with Coach Ehrenberg over on that platform, highlighting the high school kids, and the players that are standing out, the games that are standing out. It's been a blast. It's the next gen of players. Go give it a follow. Right now, it's girls soccer season. There's every team of the week. Zach, I'm going to give you one guess. Can you name the girl who has been a unanimous first teamer every vote?
Does it sound like Demo?
That would be the one, Maddie Di Maria.
Yeah.
She's just continuing to kill it down there at Corey Zoo. A lot of fun. Go check it out. Reminder: last episode, I went solo on that one. We had some newbies. Well, not newbies. They played in it before, but TST now has a new team from St. Louis this year that will be playing against McAfee and the rest. And it's brought to you by Ambush Stars is the team name. Will Eske and Chris Briggs joined me. We talked about the tournament, the $1 million, the tryouts, the players, their experiences. It was a ton of fun. And if you haven't followed it, check it out. TST 7v7 tournament. It's becoming globally popular based on the teams that are coming in and the television coverage alone. So a lot of fun, 7v7 soccer, and in extra time where you have to score to win. Every few minutes, players get taken off the field until it's just chaos. Kind of reminds me of old school MLS days, right? Early, the PK breakaways. Some of the creative ideas have reintroduced themselves into 7v7. So go check out the conversation. And again, all the support. We are extremely appreciative. Like, review, follow, share. It's free. We have low self-esteem because our kids don't talk to us. So when you do that, that helps us. Zach, what's going on in your world? You soccer wise, I know you've been chasing around spring ball.
Yeah, one good story, and then one story. So Grady is finishing up his first spring season at UNC Wilmington. They had a really good spring campaign. Got to play against UNC Greensboro, against UNC Chapel Hill, against Wake Forest, where he scored his first goal. And then they pounded South Carolina, and then they lost in PKs to Duke yesterday in the final match of the Carolina Cup. But the great news is, college soccer is the parity continues to rise and equalize, and it's just fun to watch these ACC teams play against Sunbelt and against the CAA and others, and the CAAs and others are holding their own. So kudos to the UNC Wilmington team and that staff. Bad is that my team, the bleeding heart that I have for the Tottenham Hotspurs, is looking like they're going to get relegated this year for the first time in the Premier League history, which is very, very disheartening.
You look, Zach, you beat me to the punch.
I knew you were.
because it was coming.
But
Like,
Man City beat
look,
Chelsea yesterday, so there's that.
yes, but are we in relegation zone? So it's a simple
Oh,
question.
you might not have any European opportunities next year. So.
That's okay. We'll still be in the big game. Yeah, I just want to mention one thing as far as in my soccer world, and then we're going to bring our guest on. Was thinking about it because I was out at Creve Coeur and Fuse, all the fields. There was a big tournament this weekend that brought in a lot of quote academy teams from all around the Midwest in particular, and a lot of the top teams in our market as well. You know, and I could just feel the vibe. I could hear the parents chirping. I could kind of see, you know, some of the body language of just how the kids were like reacting post game, etc. And what's going on, and Zach, you know this all too well. When you get into April in the spring, in U.S. club soccer in particular, all of a sudden everybody starts losing their mind because they don't know where their kid is going to be next. All they're concerned with is kick arounds and showcases and tryouts. And these kids are 12 or they're 11 or even young, you know, like, and I just wanted, this is just a PSA more than anything. Just relax, parents. These clubs, if you're playing at these clubs that are going to these tournaments that are really kind of high level tournaments, you probably have a staff that knows what they're doing, and or they've been doing it for a long time. 90% of the time plus, they're going to get it right. Right? They're going to make the right selections. The kids that move up deserve to move up. The kids that move down probably need or deserve to move down. So just let the process play out, because as you get anxious about it and you start to worry about it, guess who picks up on that? Your kids. You know, when you get in the car and how'd you do at training? Did you score enough goals? That's just pressure that the kids don't need. These kids are all capable. They're all learning. And it's a long road. So just sit back and in honor of springtime, yet again, smell the flowers and enjoy it. Because you're going to be really upset whenever it's all over. Once they're out of school and asking for real money and not playing sports, then you're going to have a different relationship with your child. So
I have a question for our guest here that I'll hold off on, and it's about the World Cup, which he might know a few things about. But the last thing I'll say is, you know, you talked about the fleeting time you have in this youth environment. We had made plans to fly to North Carolina to watch this final game against Duke. The team sent out a note. Actually, the tournament sent out a note saying we're going to live stream each game. So we canceled our flights, and then the live streaming never worked. So we were getting, minor updates from some parents that happened to be there. But yeah, missing out is something I'm not a big fan of, and neither is Mandy. But great season and great time for soccer. So I'm ready to get into this.
Again, I'm going to close this out. Enjoy it. Let your kid play. Let the coaches coach. If they have the drive, they'll find the way. There's not a secret sauce, and there's not a car ride home conversation that's going to change materially change anything. Support them, have fun. So with that, it's time. Let's move. As we mentioned earlier, we're Zooming today. We're not in studio today, and our guest is really Zooming. In fact, we got about a 7-hour time zone difference here. Joining us from Deutschland, Mr. Thomas Dooley himself. How's it going, Thomas?
How you doing, guys? I'm doing great. Actually, I'm doing better than a couple of days ago because I just came out of the hospital. I had some problems with my eye, and so I had to check the pressure of my eye, and everything is okay now. So I have to use some drops to keep it safe. So it's always important to check your health. You never know what happened. So, and I'm glad that I did it. And so I just came back home today, and then I contacted you again because about the time change. I'm all over the place. Guyana, US, and I was in the Philippines, and I just came back to Germany because I had to get that done. So our original time in the time zone of the Philippines wasn't right anymore. So that's why we hooked up together and be on the same page. Glad to be here.
I love it. Yeah, no, really appreciate it. We've been, as you mentioned, we've been trying to make this happen for a little while. You are a busy guy. You are a literal world traveler slash worker. So give us just a quick update as to, you kind of alluded to it just a second ago. Where are you these days? Are you, where are you coaching? Where are you living? What kind of events are you entering into? What's Mr. Dooley doing in 2026?
How much time do you have?
Oh, we got all day. I don't have a real job. Zach does. Zach.
Okay, so there's one thing that let's start with the first one. What I'm doing actually right now is I'm the head coach of the national team of Guyana, South America, and so it was very interesting for me to get that kind of a job. I never worked in South America. I worked in Asia and Europe, in the US, and so I was like 2-3 months looking at didn't really want to go there, but then I looked at the team and I saw the weaknesses and the strength of the team, and it was for me, it was like a decision that I made because of that team, that it was easy to change, to make that team successful, and that's why I took that job. And we had, in the first 4 games, we won all 4 games, and it looks very promising that the next couple of games we're going to win also. And it's about the mindset. So that's what I needed to change. A great offense, made a lot of mistakes in the defense, but easily changeable mistakes that you just have to think. They don't think the right way, and that's exactly what I did. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. What I do on the other side, that is something that I did the whole life, and I could see that the defensive part is, you can change that very easily. They just have to get it. They have to understand. They have to think different, and I could see that those things are easily to manage, and that's why I took that job. Living, okay, I live in Germany. I don't live over there. I be there when we have the national team games, but because it's very difficult to get there, and I'm missing family and missing my dad. He lives here in Germany, so I want to spend time with him. And then the other part, I live in the Philippines, and one of my kids is in California, so I'm going actually next month also back to California. We have that big event, the '94 World Cup. Reunited in San Jose, so that will be another couple of days that I'm going with him over there and enjoy that. But my primary thing is also because about my life, how I played and how I achieved all that successes in my career, and it was like from a very unusual situation, because when I was 18, I played in the 11th division in Germany, and that's the kind of the lowest division in the world. And I met a mentor, a person who asked me if I'm happy with my life. And I was saying, no, it's not really. But then he said, come over to my office. Let's talk a little bit. Every 2 weeks I went there. 6 months later, I signed my first professional contract. And that's when I knew what I'm doing, it works. So I continually did that, the structure and the method and all that stuff. So I followed those steps, and I won almost everything. The German second division championship, third division championship, the Bundesliga, the German Cup, the German Super Cup, UEFA Cup. Then I stepped into the national team. I played for the national team in the US in 2 World Cups, and then in the Hall of Fame. And I was asking when I was done, how is that possible? How is that possible when you're 18, train once or twice a week, and you just change something in your habits, and you can achieve that?
So let's talk about those habits, because I mean, you just rattled off a resume that is so impressive just on its own, and you didn't even mention the fact that you didn't start with the U.S. men's national team until you were 30. You
32,
didn't speak much English at the time, so you did all those things from 18 to 30 that you just mentioned. What were some of those habits that you were informed about? And then how did you make those changes?
The one thing is, you can see in my background the 4 pillars, and that was the basics. The 4 pillars in football. It's the foundation of football. It doesn't come on my brain. It's science, and comes from FIFA, that they have to have those 4 pillars. And most of the players who are playing in the age of 14 to 22, 24 even, they don't train that missing piece. They're, most of the coaches, they train the technique, the tactic, and the fitness. But there's another pillar that most of the parents don't know. And maybe if they know it, they don't know how to train that. It's a mentality. And you can see more and more people in a professional level, how they are talking about the mentality is different. So if you can imagine, if you want to reach your full potential, you have to do all 4 pillars. If you're one of them, like the technique, if you cannot pass and receive the ball, you cannot play. I mean, you can play AYSO, maybe lower level, but you can't go to college. They don't pick you because every time you get the ball, you're losing it. So if the tactic, if you don't know how to play a 4-2-3-1 or 3-4-3 or whatever, your right back, left back, if you don't know how to play that and the responsibility of each position that you play, it's also you're making so many mistakes that you can't play in a higher level. So the same thing is with fitness. If you have only, power for 20 minutes or 10 minutes, how can you play a 90 minutes game? It's impossible. So you will not achieve your full potential, or you cannot play in a professional level or in a college level, or maybe in a higher league level and want to be one of the best players. It's impossible. And the mentality is not being trained. And if you don't train that, you be a great player, but to make it to the top, it's missing. And that's what I was thinking. That was my change.
Pre-College Development Academy is live right here in St. Louis, a strategic program for high school grads that are looking to take the next step in their playing career, but are either not quite ready for the leap or are not satisfied with their options. The PCDA program helps players prepare for the college game and explore new options that were not available their senior year. In addition, the program can help shift a player's 4 years of eligibility to the last half of their college and potentially grad school experience. PCDA, a gap year to grad year solution.
So let me ask a specific question as it pertains to kind of your pathway, because as Zach mentioned and you concurred, you didn't join the U.S. national team in '94 until you were in your early 30s. Clearly, there was a ton of soccer leading up to that point. But what I want to ask you about is, the mindset or the process or the conversation and how it kind of came to fruition that you ended up in that mix. You had you had a German mother and an American father, right? We know how that works. But at some point, somebody has to call you, or you have to reach out to be put into the consideration. Who was that, and when did that occur, and what did that mean to you?
That was when I played in Kaiserslautern. We just won the German Bundesliga. The last game was in Cologne. We won 6-2. And then 6 months later, we played the last game that year at home against Cologne again. And my agent's friend was from Cologne. And he asked him, hey, why don't you come over? We have the rematch in our stadium now. And he said, no, I can't. My girlfriend from the US is here. And he's like, sure, bring her. And she worked for the US Soccer Partners, Jennifer Hammer. And so she came in, they came, and he told her, said, come over so you can see what the difference between American soccer and German football. So they came, and after the game, I went into, like always, going to VIP room and with meeting all the fans, some of the fans, the sponsors, and the families, wives and kids. And I came in, and then Michael, he introduced me to her and to him and said, this is Thomas Dooley. He plays for Kaiserslautern, and that is Matthias Sligman and Jennifer Hammer. She works for US Soccer Partners. And like you mentioned it, I grew up in a little state in Germany where you had to learn French. I had 6 years French, but no English. I never met my dad, so I never spoke English at home. We always spoke German. So, and that's why it was so, for me, I didn't speak a word. So we were sitting together, and after the conversation we had a couple hours later, she asked my friend, say, what was his name? Dooley? Dooley? That's not a German name. I said, no, his father was American. I said, oh, his father was American. So if he could play for the United States, do you think he want to play? He called me at 5 o'clock in the morning and said, Thomas, sit down. It's like, what the heck are you calling about? I'm lying in bed. It's 5 o'clock. It's like, no, listen, the girl that we met last night, she works for the U.S. Soccer Partners. I had no idea what U.S. Soccer Partners mean. So he said, that's like his German federation and sponsoring the federation. And she was asking, if you want to play for the United States, you want to play? And I was screaming, of course I want to play. That would be amazing. So, and a long story before was like, I was very close to the German national team to play there, but I got 3 times a huge injury. Every time I had to go to the hospital. And the last time I was the end of the chance, because then I would be too old. So I never thought about playing for the United States. And then when that came that night, it was amazing. I don't even have to
so let me ask a follow-up question to that then, because obviously you just won the league title. You were in the consideration for the German national team. Your circle is an elevated circle at that time from both players and coaches, and just you're in the know, right? The U.S., yes, we had played in the 90 World Cup first time since 1950. 1994, we were hosting. Obviously, everybody knew that was coming down the pipe. Were your peers respectful of the opportunity? Was it, and I'm just gonna say it, was it a little bit of a joke? Was it like, oh, why would you want to do that? Because we clearly were not a powerhouse. We were going to host. So what did that look like on the backside when you go to the pub and you say, hey, guess what? I'm going to go play for the United States. What was the reaction amongst your circle?
It was amazing. I mean, the whole situation. I went to my head coach, and at that time, the one who won the championship, and I told him, "Hey, coach, I might be in the future. I have a great opportunity, and I might want to be in the future. I had to leave a couple of times, so I can't be available." And he said, "Why?" And I said, "I got invited to play for the United States." I mean, he was incredibly happy. And he also said with Michael, the guy who organized everything, my agent, so to speak, and he said, we don't want to let everyone know, but right from the start, we making it a little bit more interesting. So they had like a camera crew came in and from a sports channel in Germany, and then they said Kaiserslautern has a new national team player. And then everybody was thinking, who could that be? And I joggled the ball, and they had the camera on my feet, when I joggled the ball, and then they going up, 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 and then suddenly they saw me. I mean, it was like in a paper they were talking about that before, that Thomas, you are very close to play for the German national team. You have 1 or 2 more games, and then you'll be in. And then I torn my ligaments, and then a couple months later, the same situation again. Now you're back in shape and great. Buchwald, Kohler, 2 center backs are injured. You're the best one in the league right now. So that's your chance to play for the German national team. Yeah. 1 or 2 more games. The next weekend, I torn my ligaments in the other ankle and had another surgery. And the third time, it was like the last chance that I had. And they went to Argentina and Mexico with 34 players. And he said, Thomas, if you don't make it now, and then the time is over. And I said, yeah, I mean, I feel great. Would love to be there. 2 days later, somebody hit me with a knee in my chest. I broke 4 ribs. 1 punched my lung. My lung collapsed. I was in the hospital, and it was over. And I remember that my wife was saying that why are you so negative? And I said, look, I'm lying here in a hospital. I can't play anymore for the Nationals, for Germany, and I maybe cannot even play anymore at all. And she said, yeah, maybe you shouldn't play for Germany. And I said, what, should I play for Italy, for Spain? I can only play for Germany. So, yeah, it was like that. We were all like really focused on that. And she said, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't. That was the first thing she said that night when Michael, my agent, called me and said, hey, if you can play for the United States, you want to play? I said, of course I want to play. She woke up and said, now you know why you shouldn't play for Germany. So if I would have played 1 minute for Germany, I couldn't have played for the United States. Yeah. And I don't know if I played that one friendly game in Brazil or in Argentina or Mexico for 5 minutes, I could never play for another country. So I didn't, and now I got a chance to play in the World Cup and enjoyed, I don't know how many hours of playing for the United States, and I enjoyed every minute, every second. It was fantastic. I love it.
I got a couple questions as a follow-up to that. One, when you're 18, you're in the 11th division of the German leagues. You go and you meet this mentor. was one of your goals to play for the German national team, or was it more elevated to play in the World Cup? That's the first question. The second question, we always circle back to St. Louis at some point. And I know who your roommate was in that World Cup, and I know that he so he mentioned one little story, and it was a good one. He didn't give me any dirt.
We had only good ones. We had only good stories.
Yes. So talk about how, your goals at 18, was it to play in the World Cup? Just how did you, continue to push towards that? And then talk a little bit about the experience working with the American players when you came over here.
Okay. You might have to remind me on the second question. Okay. No, in Germany, it wasn't like that. My goal was, because we played on fields, there's no linesman, sometimes no referee. The fields are horrible. There are glass from broken glasses on the field, stones on the field. I mean, it was horrible. And so my goal was to play maybe 3 levels higher, 3 divisions higher, maybe in the 9th division, or even 8th would be, not 8th, but that would be fantastic. That was my goal. That means you have linesmen, you have referees, you have a nice grass area, maybe everybody gets the same T-shirt, going to the game, and blah blah blah. Those are the things. But what I learned from my mentor was not to give up and having a structure. So he was talking about reading some books. He said, I know how you feel. You're always coming over here. You're drained out. You have no energy. When you leave, you can do everything. So he motivated me in a way to, in pictures, what you can achieve in your life. And, get the books, The Power of Subconscious Mind, Jonathan, the Livingston Seagull, all that stuff. I wrote those books. And I write all my ideas down and what could help me. I bought only books about people who are successful. What have they done? And it was one, like she was saying, that the most important thing in life you have to do to be successful. That one thing, I wrote it down. And I bought another book, the 7 steps you have to take to be successful. I wrote those 7 down. And I did it with the 5, the 3, 8, 12, 15. And I figured out everybody's talking about the same thing. The 1 was in the 3, and the 5, and the 7, and the 8, and the 15s, and the 12. The 8 was in the 10, and the 12, and the 15s. So they just figured out on their own what is the best thing for me. And that's when I started and I say, you know what? I need to find out which ones are for me perfectly in what I want to do.
Yep.
And that was five keys. And the 5 keys are, you need to have a clear goal, what you want. And the goal has to be realistic. And I'm saying that you can achieve anything. And I know I'm running against the wall with some of the people, but I can say you can achieve anything in life you want, if you really want it. It has to be a realistic goal. If I want to fly to the moon, it's not going to happen because nobody flies to the moon. I'm too old. I don't have the money. If they would fly right now, millions of dollars to go for 5 minutes on the moon, I can't. My health is not as good enough that I can do it. If my son, who is 16, if he wants to fly to the moon, if that's his goal, he can. He can be an astronaut. He can study. He can focus on it. He can get a good job in 15 years. Maybe we fly to the moon, he can do it. So that could be realistic. That's important. The second thing is you have to have a plan. What do I need to do to get there? What do I need to do if my plan is to play in the 9th division or maybe in the 8th? What do I need to do? I have to write that down. That plan needs to be written down. The third thing is action. If you have that written down and you organize it, what you need to do step by step, you need to carry out your plan. If my plan was when I was 18, when you can imagine 16 in Germany, living in a little village with 800 people in that small town, we have all use soccer, and we have a couple restaurants or bars in the little village where everybody hangs out. You can smoke when you're 16. You can drink alcohol when you're 16. What do you do on a weekend? That's what you do. You hang out playing cards, hang out with the girls and the guys, you're smoking cigarettes, going to the club and drinking beer. So what you do is, if I'm having a plan, no smoking, no drinking, more training every day, eat right and get to bed early, get enough sleep and prepare for the training sessions. If I have written that down on my piece of paper, and now comes the third key, action. I'm sitting at home watching a TV and drinking my beer, smoking my cigarettes, don't go to training. I can never achieve my goal. That's absolutely clear. I mean, everybody understands that. But if I'm doing that, if I'm carrying out my plan, what I have, the list that I have written down, if I carry that out, I can achieve and I will achieve my goal. The fourth thing is that you have to believe it. That was in the beginning when I thought I have to believe it. That turned into over the years in I need to be convinced. I need to be convinced that I can make that happen. I'm going to be there. I'm going to see myself playing in that division with those teams, with linesmen, with referees. If I don't believe my goal, if I don't believe that I can achieve that, I have to go back to my plan and I say why I'm not believing it. Why I'm not convinced something is wrong, all because of A, B, C. Okay, then you have to find a solution. How can I deal with A, B, C to get that done? And when you find a solution about buying a car or whatever your goal is, you're missing $10,000, $5,000. Yeah, how can you get $5,000? How can you get $10,000? Ask your parents, ask your uncle, your mom, go get another job on the side, whatever that thing is. You have to find the solution for that, what you don't believe. Because of this, I cannot make it happen. So, and then the fifth thing is you have to visualize. You have to dream that you achieve it. That's why it's so important for a player who wants to become a professional player. You need to watch live games, not just on TV. Go live game, pick the person who plays your position, copy him. Find the player. If you are only 5'6" and you're looking at the player who is like 6'9", 6'5", 2 meters and something, you are not that kind of type. Find a player who plays like you. Watch him, copy him, see how he moves when he has the ball, see how he moves when he doesn't have the ball, or how he's getting in a position. You can see that live, but you cannot see that on TV because it's always a TV follows the ball. Oh, yeah. So, and then you go over here and you visualize yourself. You know how many times I was in the stadium and I looked and said, I can't do the same thing. I played in the 11th division and I looked at the players in the 2nd division and I said, I can do the same thing. The goalkeeper gets the ball, he opens up, get the ball, get one touch forward, plays 10, 15 yards to the other guy, and then it drops back and be available again. Tackling somebody plays it in, and they're having a run, the forward and the center back has a run, and I see that he's running, he tackled the guy and kicked the ball out. It's like, I can't do that too. That's not a big deal. So those kind of things was for me in the beginning where I said, I never thought playing in the Bundesliga, never thought playing in the national team, in the World Cup and stuff. I admired those guys, but I never had a thought. It was always step by step. You want to be a professional player, but there's a way to get there, and that's what you have to in smaller goals.
I love it.
So I want to zoom out just a little bit because and it's really interesting here you walk through it because it makes sense. I probably have read a lot of those same business books that you just described earlier, because obviously those lessons apply to so many facets of life and opportunity. Everything. But as it pertains to soccer, I'm sitting here and I'm listening, and I heard and I felt like this narrative coming from you as not cliche in a bad way, but cliche in kind of a global way. And what I mean by that is, German ingenuity. Germans are known for being very methodical, super organized, as a nation. Look at the cars you build, right? But when it comes to the game, there's also a distinct compare and contrast between the historic German style, very tactical, very smart, very, disciplined, comparing that to the easy one would be Brazil, right? In which everybody just sees this free flow, this creativity. That's what they're known for. Even though we, those of us that really watch and pay attention, their defense was arguably better than their offense more times than not. Can you take a second and talk about just kind of the role that maybe your local culture and that kind of mindset, how has that played out in these nations and these styles? And do you think that now that we're more globally interconnected through social media and access to games, and coaches like yourself that are in Guyana, that are all over the world, are we starting to see less of individuals playing styles culturally due to the globalization of the game compared to German methodical play versus Brazil creativity? Do you see it that way, or do you disagree?
I disagree. There's one thing. Obviously, the game changes. Everything is about speed nowadays, and it's not just the physical speed; it's also the mental speed. You have to think much quicker. But I think it's a culture that you have. The Brazilians have that culture that they are not that organized. I don't want to say that organized, but they are from the inside out. They are more like the creative kind of players, and the Germans are more like the structured players. They will always play like that. Germany, you have 24, 25 players. You lose 4 or 5 players, the system will not change. The machine, every wheel goes the same thing. Some wheel goes a little faster, the other one a little bit slower, but the organization and stuff, it's always the same. Where with the Brazilians, it's like Latin Americans, they have more like an individual player who can make a decision. But the whole game is like that too. It's like decisive moments, one little second, somebody can make a decision to win the game or not.
Well, so this brings me to the follow-up, because I was just kind of wondering what direction this would go, and it just had an aha moment. I want to go back to 1994 and when you showed up with that particular team. Through the lens of what we were just talking about, the mechanism that is the German style versus the internal creativity that was the Brazilian style. You show up in the United States camp. What was that style? What did that culture look like from an organizational standpoint, from a personality standpoint? Because the reality is we were newbies on the global scale, on the global scene.
Yeah. I mean, it was one thing that, everybody thought like everything started in 94, but actually it started in 1990, even that we didn't win the game. So I was talking a lot of the players, at that time who were playing there. And obviously it was a little bit difficult for them, having didn't get a point out of it, but they got hammered once. But then nobody knows that the US were playing one man down. And if you play at that time against a team who's much, much better, and you can lose, it sometimes goes like this. But the effort, and then the game against Italy was only, a short loss. And everybody was like celebrating the US players playing so good against the Italians. The next step was like that maybe I came in, Bagley came in, Ernie Stewart came in. So some of the players had a little bit of an international experience. And then suddenly we got a little bit more experience in that team. And the 94 World Cup was, a bunch of guys who are playing on the weekends or playing in college football, and they have like a 3 months, 4 months season. The rest of them, they just played a little bit for fun. Now you have to create something, and that's why Bora was just an amazing coach. What it was so important for us at that time to building a team. And I always said that team was the 94 World Cup team was the best team I ever played. Not about the best soccer team who playing crazy football, winning the World Cup and stuff. No, but the team where everybody was like a family member. Everybody worked for each other. And with that feeling that we had in that group, that's how we got success in 94 and beat Colombia and had some good results in the beginning. Even that 1-0 loss against Romania was not necessary. It could have been also 1-1, or maybe even against Brazil, it could be a 1-1 game also. So we were really lifting up everything, and then it compared to 98, and the World Cup started, and then the MLS started, and that, in my opinion, in the beginning killed everything. And the 98 World Cup was the worst team that I played with. So that's the opposite. 94 was the greatest, and the 98 was the worst team I played with. Because
let's talk about that. Let's get into that a little bit, because obviously we're less than 2 months away from the World Cup being back in the United States. One of the things I wanted to talk to JB about in the intro, and I just didn't want to bring it up, so I wanted to bring it up now, is the fact that you now have Canada, the US, and Mexico hosting 48 countries in the World Cup this year. And average ticket prices are in the $400 to $500 for non-market teams. And I just want to get your thoughts on a couple things. One, I want to hear that delta between the 94 team and the 98 first, and then I want to talk more about this year's World Cup. So I'd love for you to dive into that 94 team, and you talked about the familial part and the camaraderie that you had in that 94. What was different between that team and the prep for that team and the 98 team? And I want to hear your true thoughts on those original Predator boots, because I heard you really loved them.
I can tell you something about that. And one thing, I put your question also, JB, from that you had before to answer that, because that's kind of a part of this 94 World Cup family that we created. It was like when I came over the first, everybody was very respectful. Everybody was very friendly, hopeful. And, I was, from the first day on, I felt like I had so many new friends, and they treated you like that. They understand that my English wasn't great, but there were some of them, we had like 3 coaches who spoke German, and that was made it a little bit easier. Paul Caligiuri, who spoke German, he was there with me and translated sometimes, but it was a very, very heartily welcome feeling that I got from all of the players, and especially Bill Nadel and Bora and the coaching staff. So it was really, Sigi Schmidt spoke German, Timo Liukowski spoke German, then Zoskic spoke German. So Bora, he speaks 50,000 languages, so he spoke a little bit German too. But then, the training sessions that we had, we lived together in apartments in the same community. So we drove to training together, we hang out together twice a day for training. So I moved, my contract ended in Kaiserslautern. I moved to Los Angeles, to Orange County, Mission Viejo, and stayed there with the team training. So it was like every single day was just a fantastic day, hanging out with them, talking, laughing, learning the language, and playing with them. So obviously in the beginning, you could see that the difference between them and me wasn't not really, I would say, the skill, because I have seen so many players, they were much more skillful than I was. I wasn't a good dribbler. I wasn't the fastest, but I wasn't also not the slowest. But I was somebody who can read the game very well. So that helped to organize the players on the field. You don't need to have the whole friggin' language to talk to somebody in front of you in the game, but you have to point them out where they need to go, what they need to do. And that was kind of that I helped the players also kind of develop and understanding the game a little bit, because it's very important. You need to understand the game. It's not just about kicking a little bit here and there. There was like, when I remember like Marcelo Balboa, Alexi Lalas, when they came in, it's they running out the player, and then they kicked out the ball into the stands, where I say, you know what, why don't you kick it 2 yards ahead, and then you can play it down the line, and all those little things that you can, and I showed because my game was like, I'm not holding back. I'm working as hard as I can, and if I can't run anymore, then I'm done. So and I just showed them. I remember Bora once when I got injured against England when we won 2-0, and somebody hit me so hard that I torn my ligaments. And 4 days later, we played against Germany. And Bora made it to a point. He said, Thomas, you have to step onto the field. I wasn't allowed to step on my foot. I had crutches and just walking with them in a hotel and lying in a hotel. No, not allowed to walk on my foot. And then the night before, he said, Thomas, you need to go just walk a little bit. So I got taped and I walked a little bit and run a little bit, but it was so painful. And he said, Thomas, you have to play tomorrow. In the warm-up, you don't have to run a lot. Just, move around a little bit. Because I want you to be on the field. The players are a little bit afraid of Germany. you know them all. You're friends with some of them. And if you're talking to them, you're in a tunnel in Chicago with them, walking in, and see, they're also guys. They're regular guys. They're not aliens and stuff like that. So said Thomas, walk onto the field, and in 5 minutes you say, I can't coach. I take you out. And that was kind of a thing that they said, the players looking maybe up to me because I played in the Bundesliga, won all those things, that say, okay, great. And give them the confidence that they can do also not the same thing, but similar things. They could go play in Germany because I'm not that outstanding players, but I was reading the game very well, and that kept me to play in the highest level with them.
So I remember that tournament, and I remember that game. How big of a deal was it for you to score against your home nation?
I couldn't believe it. I could not. When I scored, I was running, and I can't believe it. I didn't even want to get off the field anymore. I said, I'm going to play 90 minutes. But you can imagine everybody, and I was thinking of, that was my fear before. I say, this is my first game against Germany. And it's something that I really want to show everyone, because the people know me in Germany, because, the Bundesliga, and say, oh, now Thomas, he plays in the Bundesliga. Oh, yeah, that guy in Kaiserslautern, blah, blah, blah. So my teams over here, my friends, all my family members, all my friends watching that game and looking at my game. Now I have this horrible injury, and I cannot even play. Maybe I look horrible. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I just don't. So I try to play under the pain. And again, when I got that first chance, again, it was like that was my game. I saw that I can be open in the box. When Wegerle get that ball, I can be open in the box. If he sees me, he plays me, I'm right in front of the goalkeeper. That's when I took off. And then I scored that goal. And like I said, I was the happiest guy in the game, on the field. And I scored another one. I scored two, actually. I never forget that game.
So let me ask you a question. I want to connect the dots between this 2026 team that we're looking at, and obviously we don't know the final full roster, and going back to kind of the culture and the character of your 94 team, and kind of the passion and frankly the results. It was a great tournament for us, hosting back then. When you look at the two camps, like what's your gut take? As far as the roster, and here's where I'm going with this. There's an argument that can be made, that is often made, that today is the golden age when you look at the players and you look at the teams, their club teams that they're playing for across Europe at the highest level, and then you look at the 94 squad and you look at so many just kind of character players, and then there was a sprinkling of individuals like yourself. How do you look at the two teams as far as like expectation goes?
I mean, obviously the expectation is much higher now than it was at that time. And the expectation is because we are so many times part of the World Cup, and we were once, very close to get to the final. I remember that when we lost against Germany. We should have gotten a penalty at that time, and we wouldn't be maybe in the final against Brazil. So, and now it's obviously so many players playing overseas in the big club. I think, like always, it's the money that makes a difference. If you're making so much money and it's all about money, then you're losing something that makes it necessary to be a part of, not being a part of it, but being successful. It's the hunger, the mindset, the mentality. I think again comes back to this. That needs to be there to 100%. If you're not fighting for it, you want to fight for it, but it's not really in there. And again, it comes with 94. 94, what doesn't matter. That we want to be successful in the home World Cup and blah blah blah. And then it comes next to the next 98. That has something to do. It's about the money, because in 95 we starting with the MLS, and now we're placing all the players into the city where they need to be promoted, and with sponsorship money and billboards and newspapers and podcasts and night shows, evening shows, they're all invited. And 98, You should have seen what's happening. Why is he on a newspaper? Why is he as a sponsor? Why not me? Why I'm not invited? Why this? It was only egos. And the ego that kills everything in football. If you're just thinking about that, it's killing you. And that was 98, total, the worst team that I ever played with. And it's almost the same players. You see how much they changed. Now you have the players playing in Italy, playing in Germany, playing in England, playing all over the world in the top leagues. If they are coming and you have a coach who brings those guys together on one table and say, you know what, look, this is the opportunity. We play at home, and it's not like just a one-time conversation. It has to come over and over again. The players need to understand we have only a chance if every single one in every single position gives the best that he can, prepares the best that he can. I always say, my team, I tell them, you play the way you prepare. And if you want to have an outstanding performance, you need to have an outstanding preparation. And that comes only with team effort. You need to build a team, not the best player. I had to kick in the Philippines the best football-specific player out to be successful. The people love them. The fans love them. The sponsor, the media love them. But I kicked him out because he killed everything. You need to find every single one who is like that with your teammates, with the goal that you have. You want to work your butt off. And even if you get after 60 minutes, 50 minutes, you're coming out because you can't run anymore. This guy was happy because another guy comes in and finishes the job because I couldn't anymore. So those kind of an understanding that you have to build. You say so many times you hear they have to build a team. What does that mean? It means exactly like that. And it starts to way over here. Don't think about your club you play in Spain and Italy and Germany or wherever that is. Don't think about the money that you're going to make. And, if you're getting in there, you want to be. No, it is right now is that time where you have to step up and you have to do your job. Do the best you can in the team effort, and then we want to be successful. And that's what you need to ask. If you don't have that, if you have groups in there, it's not going to work out. Then you're not going very far.
You're going to LA for the 94 reunion event.
Next month, yeah.
If you get a chance to go to the locker room with Pochettino, what is your message to those 24 young men on the U.S. national team before their first game?
I mean, one thing, I don't know them. If it's would be real, I don't know. It's very difficult from somebody. You can just tell them from the experience, but it will go maybe the same way like it would go with our ex-players too. So what the heck are you talking about? What do you want to know earlier? That's kind of that's my feeling. That's my feeling. But the one is in charge. The guy is in charge. If it's the coach, if it's the assistant coach, if it's the manager, if it's the sporting director, they need to be there. They need to get the guys out and sit together with them. Look, this is what's happening. This is what needs to be done. This is what we have to do. And I think that it should be a wake-up call for the players. And that's kind of needs to be built. It's the one time you're saying is, they're listening. I mean, I wasn't in that situation with the players. I know how some of the players think, but the ones who think like that, they will never be really successful. Making money is something, they're not an outstanding player in the team.
Have you been keeping up with the team, watching the friendlies, fairly somewhat aware of the roster?
No, I was doing sometimes I was doing it, but when you are in charge with the national team and you have to take care of them, you have a lot of things to do because of you want to be successful with them. But I'm trying to get some information and I'm seeing it and I see the results and all that stuff. And I remember some of the players, needed the break after last year, never had a break. And I did the same thing when I was playing. I went to the US, played in the summertime when we had a break in the Bundesliga, and I went in the wintertime, played Copa America and all that stuff. But I didn't care because I want to play for the national team. Nowadays, a little bit different, but I don't want to, because I don't know them personally. I don't know how they feel. That is very, very important, that you're not, and that's why I'm always saying it has something to do with the people inside. They need to understand this guy. I need to put him in my arms and I need to talk to him, need to sit together and a cup of coffee or something, and invite him a dinner, come, let's go and talking to him. And the next guy, you have to get him up front and say, hey, sit over there. And then you talk to him. If you're playing like this, you do something like this, is the last time that you will be here. So every player is different. And I always compare that with an iceberg. You see only the head of it. I know how you look. I know how you laugh. I know how you talk. I might see you walking, going back and forth, but I don't know how you feel. I don't know what your goals are. I don't know what bothers you in that moment, or from the home, from the coaching staff, from the federation. You have some issues, whatever that is. Everything plays a role. Like the German coach said before the World Cup in Brazil, when he said we need to be 100% fit to have a chance to win the World Cup. If we are not 100% fit, we have no chance at all. And that was 2 years before the Brazil World Cup. And it makes so much sense. If you're not fit, everyone else is fit. They are maybe running like 2,000-3,000 meters more average than we do. You have no chance. And the thing is, but if you're 100%, you have to be 100% fit to have that chance. And I think that is similar with our players. If we really want to be successful in this World Cup, we have to sit together and everybody has to be on the same page and forget about everything out. This is it. And this is what I live for right now. And it gives me a broader future in after the World Cup. And, I'll be here a big hero, or maybe I'm not. But if you care,
so let me. I want to throw out one of the most difficult questions in the world for an athlete, and that is the desert island question, because you've played at every level. You've had a load of characters and skill players on the bench with you, on the pitch with you. You go away, desert island. You get to pick one. Who are you taking with you and why?
the best player or the player that I like the most being with?
That's the beauty of the question. However you want to answer it.
Any or the Americans that I played with, or what?
Any.
Yeah.
Or do you want
yeah.
Americans?
Well, how about two answers? There's two islands. You're on a little archipelago, right? There's two islands. You have your Euro island and the Americas island. Who are you taking with you on the Euro island first?
It is so. What the question? What in what regards that I like, or talking about football, or playing with him, or
all of the above? Somebody that you will not kill if you're there by yourself with them for an extended period of time. Who do you like? Who would you take with you?
I would take with me. I would say Jurgen Klopp.
Oh, there you go.
I would take Jurgen Klopp. I did my apprenticeship with him because when you do the UEFA license, you have to pick for a couple of weeks. You have to do your internship, and I did it with him because I wanted to know how he handles the team, because he's always in a good mood with the players. How does he handle that? And that was very, very interesting. Those 2-3 weeks that I was working with him in Mainz before I went to Dortmund. And I think I would love to, because I was laughing a lot, and I liked the way that he handled all that stuff. And now with this huge success that he had, there was so much we could talk, and lying on the beach and having a glass of wine and talking about. How was that, by the way?
So the second part is who's the American? Who you taking with you, ride or die, to that lonely little island?
I think, guys, most of the time that I spent with was Paul Caligiuri. And then, like in life, you have some ups and downs during the life. But I think with Paul, it's also, there are a lot of things that you can talk in different directions. And especially he was a main guy when I came over. He was the first guy that I met in Germany and talked to him in Germany when I came over, because I couldn't speak any English. So then he was my roommate the first 5-6 months until I said, you need to get out of here because I need to learn English. And when you're in my room, you always talk German. So I'm 6 months here. I don't even know how to say good afternoon or something. So, and that's when I changed to Peter Vermees, who was an incredible teacher. He was incredible. But yeah, I would say
Thomas, I am such a fan and feel so honored just to be able to talk to you today. And I have one final question, and it's really more just a comment about the longevity of your career, the variety of your career. You talked about the deltas between the 94 and 98. You talked about, coaching and teaching in Guyana and in the Philippines. What has been the biggest football challenge that you faced, and what are you most proud of for accomplishing it?
I mean, one is the biggest accomplishment that I have, what really, really made my life, was in the beginning when I met that guy, because learning through him and actually through my thoughts, because it's a long story about this, that I was thinking quitting by my first run. And I was thinking about, there's a little side story. In our little village, we had many professional players coming out of those 800 people in that little village. And there was one guy I saw always in the restaurant when we were smoking and drinking and sitting there when he walked in, and everybody was looking, Matthias is coming in, look at his legs, look how he moves and all that. He was my hero. And when I started with that mentor, he was a director of an insurance company. He wants me to sell insurances, obviously, but I turned it into my other life, my football life. And so when I had my goal and my plan, I need to run every day. I was running like 3 kilometers just up the hill, really steep up the hill, 3 kilometers. And one time I get like this, 500 meters from the bottom to the top. And it doesn't go over one time. So I have to build it up. And I remember the first time when I run after 300 meters on that first hill, my legs were dead. I couldn't run anymore, nothing. And I was like, I can't breathe anymore. My legs are hot. I'm done, because it was a steepest part in the beginning too on that whole run. And I was thinking, I need to quit. I need to quit. And then I looked up and I saw a tree on the curve, like 500 meters more. And I was thinking, okay, I can't stop. I need to get to that curve. If I cannot make it, then, I have to make it. Otherwise, I can't get it done. So when I was thinking about that guy, thinking about him, thinking, remember him when he walks in. I visualized him when he walks in. The guy's coming over, give him a hug on the shoulder, and they looked at us, say, look, that's a guy, that's a professional player. And I was seeing that, and I'm seeing goosebumps when I'm talking about that. And I was looking down, and I was thinking, looking over to the hill and on the side, and I was looking, and I see him walking him. And one day, if I can make that, I will be one day like him. So when I saw myself walking into that village, into that restaurant, and they coming in, and the people saying, hey, Thomas, how you doing? And blah, blah, blah. How just over, I don't know how long it takes, 500 meters up the hill, maybe a minute or 2 minutes, 2 minutes maybe. I was thinking about this. And then suddenly I came in that curve. And because my mind was on something else, that I didn't feel my legs. I was thinking, I made it. And my legs were free, so I could breathe. So I was thinking, oh my gosh, over there, I could not step up anymore. And now I'd be 500 meters further and I can go more. So I ran. I was so happy. I ran another 200 meters, and then my legs were like, boom, done. And I was like I said, you know what? That gave me 1 point. That says, if you ever in life feel it's not going anymore, if you stop there, you're going to quit all the time. You have to find a way to continue doing it. And that was kind of my my message that I got say, you know what, I can do it. I can do it. And I just can't stop every time when it hurts. You have to go more. And that was kind of every time when I got in that situation, I say, yeah, it's just my brain telling me, but I can't go. And I did that my whole life.
It's such a great story, Thomas. And I it's so visually easy to picture. And you know, how many years later that you're still able to tell the story. I have to drop because I have to have work conversations, which I don't even want to do. But it was such a delight to meet you. Good luck with the Guyana team. Hopefully we'll stay in touch. And Mike Sorber did say, please tell him hello. Yes. He's a big fan as well. And now you got the full circle with Jurgen Klopp, you know, working now with Sorber at the New York Red Bulls. So give them a follow. But Thomas, it's so great to meet you. Thank you, JB.
Thank you.
See you, Zach.
Nice to
Thomas,
meet you.
So you had your Rocky moment. You know, because we all like it's kind of American culture. Well, it's true anywhere in the world. When people drive, when they work hard, when they overcome, you know, that's when great things happen. You know, and I love kind of the visualization and the reality of what you went through to kind of tell your story. Because at 18, and I'm going to tie this back to what I was talking about at the very beginning of the show when I was talking about spring and kids trying out and new teams. You know, because if people were really listening at 18 years old in today's world, if you're not near the top, most will tell you it's over, you know, and in your experience, you grinded through it. You created a game plan and you put yourself in a position to not only succeed, but you took it to the top level in the world. So my question to you is, I saw your body language when I was talking about parents, you know, grinding on their kids about, you know, the next team or the next tryout. Just take a second and, you know, and talk about how you view this world, the world of soccer, and the role that the mental state plays in the development of a player, specifically for these families that are young, that are like chasing dreams, that are trying to figure it all out, but they're creating a ton of stress on these kids. Right. Speak to them as a coach / advisor for a second here.
Yeah. When you said that, I was just 100% agreeing with you. And the parents need. That's why, you know, the parents need to understand also the development of football, of soccer in the young age. There was a convention when a friend of mine who had all those books out there selling all those books, and there came a U10 coach came in and said, you know, do you have any tactical advanced training for U10? And we were laughing because let the kids play, like you said it. It is so important that if you want to go high, or if you would like your kid to really go high in that game, they need to love it. If they don't love it, they will never make it. And to love the sport comes in young ages, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's when you play for fun. And the more fun you have, the more you'll be driven on your own. I want to do more. I want to get to know a little bit more. And very often it's the parents wants to more than the players want to be successful. So, and that is kind of, I told my kids always, you know, whatever you want to do, I'm supporting you to 100%, but I need to see that you really want that. So, and sadly, they were not really into the soccer. They were good soccer players, but they didn't want to train every day. So they didn't want to do the groundwork. And I understand that you don't have to. One was saying, I know that I cannot be as good as you were in the Flash League, blah, blah, blah. But it's not important. But the thing is, like, they need to understand that let the kids have fun. And if they really want to do more, then it comes my situation again. The more you think, if you want to go to the highest level, you have to get to the 10,000 hours. There's a 10,000 hour rule. And the 10,000 hour means you have to do anything in life for 10,000 hours and you will be on stage. You'll be a musician, you'll be a painter, you will be a basketball player, golf player, football player. but you have to get to 10,000 hours. That means 3 hours a day, Saturday, Sunday included, for 10 years. So now how much are they working on that? And don't start doing all the additional work with more training sessions and all that stuff. You cannot reach it. You cannot train more than an hour and a half a day. But you can start thinking, watching, and focusing, visualization. That's all included in that training. And that fourth pillar is something that they can do with the kids. It's not about yeah, go ahead.
Well, let me ask you a question. I want to interrupt because I want to stick on that for just a second, because we've often on this show, we've had the debate, we've had the discussion as it pertains to, specifically in the academy world in particular. Are we training, overtraining? Are we training too much and not playing enough? And we allude to the reality that when these kids go to, they're at said MLS Academy and they go to an event, and for them, a lot of times it's about me, the individual player, in so much that they could lose 5-1. But if that player scored the one goal, their mindset is, oh, I had a good game, because they're training to be the individual player. They want that one spot. And it feels as if there's a lack of focus and or a love affair with winning, with competing, because we're too busy trying to train the next Tab Ramos, to train the next Christian Pulisic, and we are not developing the next 94 team. How do you view that with youth today, from a training versus just let them play standpoint?
I would say it's about the age. We're talking right now. You're talking about academy teams, and academy teams the academy teams. They need to win. They need to have those games and stuff. But it's still individually. You are still in a development phase where you want to stand out, and that's what I'm talking to my clients about. It is that in the end, it's you. You need to stand out. You can be a lot of hard worker in your team, but you're not standing out in a way like the other ones. So you have to find out, how can I get my full potential? You can do all the teamwork, what you need to develop also, but in the end, it's like, what do you want? If you're in the MLS next, you want to be a professional player. How to get a professional player? If you're a center forward, you have to score goals. If you don't score goals, you have no chance.
Right.
You be a center back. If you're making so many mistakes as a center back, you don't have a chance. So you can have to try to, to do all that stuff. But in the end, it's like your skill has to be developed. And that's why it's sooner you start working on the mentality, the mental part of that game, the better you will get. Most of the players, 99% of the players, don't do that. The coaches don't do that. And it's not about the coaches that they will be, now it's coming somebody who wants to do this. No, it is about the stuff that I loved that, the training session, the best of all training sessions. Why? I can do it at home. I can sit in my couch. I can visualize. I can make my plans, how I need to train, what I need to do this week, how do I need to think. The players need to start changing the way they think. When they change the way they think, they change the way they train. And when they change the way they train, they change the way they play. So if you understand the mentality training is all parts of technique, tactic, and fitness also. That includes everything. That you make you think more. You need to play chess. Why? Chess is the same thing like on the field. You need to understand. You need to think like 2-3 seconds ahead. You make a mistake, how you reacted after mistakes. All those things. If you get better and better, getting more confidence, know how to deal with mistakes, preparing for the game, working on your weaknesses and all that stuff. There's so much that you have to think and you have to change. That makes you 20-30% better as a player. Now you're making less mistakes. Now you're more comfortable. Now your presence, your body language on the field is totally different. Now they see you much better. Now you can actually getting some some muscles on your, getting your body a little bit, the size a little bit bigger. That means you can hold the players a little bit better. Understanding the game. Everything is about speed. Everything in football is about speed. How do you do that? That's what the focus needs to be. And I think if everybody starts to thinking about that, your game in the academy, your game in college, your game in high school will get better. And in the end, it's you. Because if your team in the academy, they're your friends right now, but you might not see them anymore in your life. Maybe some of them go to a professional level, go in a different area, and you're not. Maybe you're going in a different area and you'll never have contacts with them again. I have so many teammates in my life that I played with in the professional level that I don't see them anymore every 5 years. And I say, hey, and I'm happy to see them again. But it's my life, it's my future, and I need to do whatever I can to survive. And that kind of an instinct is what you need if you play that World Cup in 2026. You need to survive. You need to work your butt off. You on your own in the team. But you need to get first to the 99% or to the 100% that you can actually be that kind of a player. And that's why everyone needs to, the parents need to understand it is a part of life that I had that with my kids. If they are, teenagers, you can't reach them anymore. Oh, Dad, what do you know? What is you have no idea. You don't this, blah. And yeah. They're listening to the coaches that they have. And most of the coaches, they train what? Technique, tactic, and fitness. Nobody talks to them because it's too much time for them. They're not getting paid for. So you have to do something on your own. And if you do that on your own, you understand that game and you know what is important for you to get to the next level. And then you'll be better in your team. You can, as a leader, you can bring team players together. But first of all, you have to get there. You have to be that kind of a person. And I think that is what the most people missing in Brazil, in Argentina, in Germany. They do that. Why? Because it's the culture. There was for 100 years, it's football number one. It's all in here. When you grow up, the grandparents, the parents, they're talking at home. You are getting those 10,000 hours at home. When you listen to your uncle do this and all that, so why did you do this? You need to do that. Listen to the radio when they're talking. Listen to the commentator at the game in halftime before. All those things are so important. And then you need somebody who, could be the father, could be the mom, could be the brother, could be a cousin, who made something, is a little bit and say, you know what, I'm going to help you. And I'm telling all of my clients also listen to your parents. You listen to me, but listen to your parents. If there is one person out there who wants your best, it's your dad and your mom. Not your coach, not the other ones, but your dad and your mom, I can give you the guarantee. They want your best. And that's what I had also, that sometimes, they are getting together. The books that I'm having, for example, I had a family that they had she told me about the kids also there, the kids drifting away a little bit. And then we had a conversation and everything else. And then she bought the book and she were talking about it. Let's talk about, Thomas had this book about this and this. Let's read it together. And suddenly the kids understood that they are not getting that from the coach. And I said, but your parents can talk to you about that. Go with the parents to the book at all the individual things that you have to think of to get the better player. And
I tell you what. Well, I tell you what, it's 433 pro games, 81 U.S. national team caps. If there's proof in the pudding, so they say, you lived that career. You're describing a methodology that worked. I just want to thank you so much for joining us today. And hold on the line too. I'm just going to say goodbye so we can wrap it up and then get you back to your real life. But this has been great. So much incredible insight. I know you've got a new book out as well. So I'll be sure to put a link to it in the show notes. But Thomas Dooley, thank you very much for joining us today, and look forward to connecting in the future.
Great. Me too. Love it. It was very nice.
Awesome.
Thank you.